Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Max.
And this is Movies Actually, where we give you an honest review of the movies we've meddled with so mischievously over at Maybe Movies. And this time, we're talking about The Phantom of the Opera. A wonderful movie starring Patrick Wilson, Gerard Butler, Miranda Richardson, Kieran Hines, Simon Callow, Minnie Driver, Emmy Rossum, and Jennifer Ellison.
Amongst a few.
Just a few. It's a smorgasbord of talent, that film.
It is, yeah, definitely. I must admit, I watched this for the show.
Oh, right, so this is the first time I've caught you out.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I only watched this for when we put it on the show.
Right, so this is a... Okay, how do I start? How do I start, folks? I'm one of those people. I've been into horror movies and scary stories since I was a tiny child, and ever since I was a tiny child, tiny child, I'd been hearing about The Phantom of the Opera and what an amazing film it was, and Lon Chaney's original performance and things like that. And I got to basically the point of being an adult, but never actually having seen the film. I just heard so much about the various versions. So, when I was on a date with a really rather cute goth girl in the early 2000s, she said, "Shall we go and see The Phantom of the Opera?" And I went, "Phantom of the Opera? I've never seen that. Let's go and see it." I had no idea that this was based on the musical. None whatsoever. So I walked into the cinema, and we got the beginning with the lovely black and white, and I was like, what? Is this a reissue of an old one, or is this something like that? And then the curtains went up, and the colour kicked in, and the organs just blew my tiny little mind. And every hair on my body stood up on end, and I went, I think I like this. I don't know what it is, but I think I'd like it. And I did.
Kind of jealous of that. I've never actually had a chance to see it on the big screen.
You want some surround sound. You really want to get that organ in your face.
Would you care to rephrase that?
No, I wouldn't. I'm happy with how I phrased that. I'm going to stick with it.
And so you should be. So this is obviously the 2004 film directed by Joel Schumacher.
Amazingly.
I know. Based on Andrew Lloyd Webber's 80s production, Phantom of the Opera, the musical. Apparently they announced it as a project in 1989.
89?
And it was Sarah Brightman and Andrew Lloyd Webber's divorce that put the whole thing on hold.
Well, that makes sudden sense. Yes, that does make sudden sense.
Because it was supposed to have been, they were going to film it in 1990 with Michael Crawford and Sarah Brightman, so basically reprising their stage roles.
Yes, that would have been brilliant.
Yeah. But then it all got put on hold, and then during the 90s they kind of kept coming back to it. I did have a look. There was a number of people that they kind of toyed around with. Some of the usual ones, like Travolta.
Travolta? I know he had the musical background and everything like that with Grease, but the look.
Yeah, I know. There's some weird ones. I'll say weird ones. I mean, Antonio Banderas, I could see. They looked at him.
Oh, that could have been interesting.
Matthew McConaughey.
We'll worry about that later. I will see you there. All right?
Bye.
I love those redheads, man.
That one I can't see.
Hey.
But the best one that I read about that I saw, and it would have been fucking amazing, they were going to go full meaty.
Full meaty?
Meatloaf. It would be brilliant. I'm sorry, I
don't know what to make of it, but yes, it would. I would totally want to watch that movie.
Yeah, but so they just kept coming back to it until they finally got around to making it happen in 2004.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of my story. It was a first date story for me with a really cute goth girl. Sadly, it didn't work out, but that's life. We move on. But blew my tiny mind because I wasn't expecting the musical at all. I thought it was a straight adaptation. And then when the music kicked in, I just, like, every hair on my body stood up and I was just like, this is awesome. I like it. I don't know what it is, but I like it.
I think this is another example for me of And I'm sorry to my friends who are very much into the musical theatre, or just musicals on the whole, but I'm always kind of a bit dismissive of musicals, and I don't know why. It's not that I don't like them, I pay them slight regard, and then when I sit down and watch them, 9 times out of 10 I really enjoy them.
Oh, see, I literally grew up with musicals. Growing up, my nanny loved musicals, especially the classic MGM musicals, like South Pacific, The King and I, all Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, all of that stuff. And of course, My Fair Lady and Oliver and all of those things. So,
Oliver, yes. That was always the one that I always had time for.
It turned up on holidays and things, yeah. But whenever there was a musical on, Nanny would be watching it, and so we would be too. And I never hated them.
Mm.
And then, when I became an adult, it wasn't until I hadn't watched a musical for about 10 years, and then I watched one, and I was like, oh yeah, I actually like this. So, it was kind of a being surprised as a grown-up experience.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if it does come around again, I would go and watch it. If you don't know anything about The Phantom of the Opera, the musical was based on it wasn't originally a novel, it was serialised, the story by Gaston Leroux, which was published in serial form between 1909 and 1910.
Oh, that late?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise.
Apparently he was a huge fan. He was a French journalist and writer. It was published in a Paris newspaper as a serial. But he was a huge fan, not surprisingly, of Edgar Allan Poe and also of Conan Doyle as well.
Oh, okay, so that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Yes, that makes some sense.
But he kind of took inspiration from not real events in terms of the Phantom, but real events in terms of a fire at the opera.
Oh, that really happened.
Yeah.
Did the chandelier happen, or was it just a fire?
I think there was mention about a chandelier that came crashing down. I think the fire was supposed to be like in the 1830s, I think.
Oh, well, there you go. You see, I didn't know that.
And I think there was a rumour of an opera ghost as well. But not related to separate incidents.
Well, let's be honest, we both know there's a lot of haunted theatres.
There certainly is, yes. In fact, as you mentioned there, Simon Callow, who used to be patron saint, used to be patron of the Manor Market Theatre here, where I used to do quite a bit of my sort of early acting.
That place has been around for, I don't know
years?
How old it is. Huh?
100 years. It's over 100 years now.
I was going to say, that building is much older than 100 years.
No, yeah, the original building is a Tudor building.
Ah, right, yes, yeah, that makes much more sense, yeah. Well, there you go. Strangely based on real life. It's the original based on true events.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But it is worth your time, it's worth checking out. I mean, that's what I mean, I think it generally did better with audiences than it did with the critics. It's got like 7.2, I think, on IMDb.
Yes, I can see that. I mean, it's a crowd pleaser.
Mm.
Also, I remember at the time there was a lot of talk of people being very dismissive of Gerard Butler because he didn't have a background in musical theatre.
Yes, yeah, he'd never done any singing before, yeah.
But, I mean, I'm sorry, it sounded perfectly good to me, and I'm no idiot. Just because he doesn't have a background in musical theatre doesn't mean he's not qualified.
Mm.
And I was a little bit disappointed to hear that. I was a little bit annoyed with the critics at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we need to say anything about the plot? I don't suppose we really need.
Well, we can say a tiny bit about the plot if you really want to, but I don't want to spoil things for people, to be honest.
Just the basic synopsis.
Yes, absolutely.
So, if this is about a young lady by the name of Christine Daae, who has been taken in as an orphan at the Paris Opera in the late 1870s, and through her years there growing up, she's been taught by a mysterious benefactor who has encouraged and helped her improve her singing and her voice, and is invested in her future.
Yes. That's very much a good description of the basic setup.
Although apparently, that is one of the anachronisms, is that you wouldn't have had a royal gala in Paris in 1870 because the city was under siege by the Prussians.
Oh well.
Oh well.
Even the French couldn't get it right.
But again, that's just a quibble.
A minor detail.
Yes, but otherwise, no, it is definitely worth your time. Again, even if you're not really into musicals, most of the songs you would have probably heard. You will recognise the tunes at the very least. It is one of the greatest love stories ever told, really, isn't it?
I suppose it is, yes. And I'm going to be honest. I mean, beyond whether you like the musical or not and things like that, the production is gorgeous.
Yes.
You know, the scene production, the art direction, all of it is sumptuous, excessive, extravagant. You feel like you're being feasted your eyes are being feasted every new scene. There's something to take in, some new extravagance, some new excess to take in of the life of the opera. Which I found endlessly engaging, especially considering it's based on a musical. They really brought the physical location to life.
They did.
It's very, very well done in the fact that there are a number of scenes where you feel like you're in the rigging, you're in the back scene, and you're in the actual innards of the building.
Mm-hmm.
It feels real. It feels like a lived-in space.
Yeah.
And that's down to a really good production team, a really good art direction team.
Absolutely.
So they deserve credit for that. It's a beautiful film to watch, and it's a sumptuous, as you say, classic love story.
Mm-hmm.
If you like those things, you'll enjoy it. If you like musicals, you'll enjoy it. If you don't watch this. What are you doing here? Why are you asking me?
I think on that point, there's only really one final question I have to ask. What did happen to Fay Ray?
That beautiful satin-draped frame.
That's the one. And on that note, we'll say cheerio and see you on the next one.
As always, guys, TTFN.